Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. On today's video, we're going to get back to the CB900F. We're going to see if we can get the charging issue finally sorted out. And if that goes well, then the disassembly of the bike will start in preparation for the full restoration. Stay tuned. Still a long way to go on the CB900F, but I just couldn't help but throw the bodywork on. Well, everything except the front fender. But yeah, I just have to have a quick look at see how it's going to look. Yeah, it's going to look really good. It's going to look really, really good. So all this is going to have to come back off again very soon, because as soon as I get my charging issue straightened out, which is hopefully the reg rec, which will arrive in a few days, then the whole thing is coming to pieces. Every last nut and bolt's going to come out. I can get the frame painted, get the engine cleaned up, swing arm painted, all that kind of stuff, everything. And I think I'm going to use these handlebars as well. These ones. These clamps won't be used, but I think the shape of these bars is going to be a little bit more pleasing. They're slightly narrower and they don't sort of sweep back as far towards the rider, so it'll be a slightly sportier kind of feel to it. I think it will just look a little bit better, to be honest. Obviously I'll keep the original bars on hand because I want to keep as much of the original stuff as I can, but it just doesn't feel like a, you know, like a super sport, a heritage sport machine with these kind of grandpa style cruiser bars on it, which is what it feels like. So I'm going to put those slightly straighter ones on there. It'll give it a slightly sportier look and feel to it, although it'll still be comfortable, I think. So that's the plan. But I have learned from folks on the forum that I missed a critical step in cleaning these carburetors, and I did notice this when I took them apart. But there's a the slow speed jet in there is under a rubber plug, and I went to remove that. You may recall from an earlier video, but there was no slot in the jet. Now, according to the book, the 82, which this is supposed to have a slot, and that is supposed to be a removable jet. However, 81s, which I'm guessing these carbs may be off an 81, or maybe they built the 82 with a leftover set of carbs from an 81, I don't know. But it doesn't have a slot, so they're not removable in the traditional sense. So apparently they clog up pretty easy because they're like a typical pilot. They're fluted, so those little holes get plugged up pretty easy. And the only way you can get them out is by drilling the top of the jet, and then tapping that jet, and then threading a screw in there with a bolt with a nut on it, and then using the nut to pull. When you tighten the nut down on that screw, it'll pull that jet right out of there, and then you have to, I guess, pressure fit it back in after. So if I have any further issues, you know, popping and missing and all that kind of stuff, I am going to give those jets one more try with a guitar string and some compressed air, because I did that at carb number 2 and it really did stop the popping on that cylinder. So I'm going to do that on the other, once I take this bike completely apart, I'll do that again. But there's a high likelihood I'm going to have to resort to drilling and tapping those jets and pulling them out. Cleaning those fluted holes in those pilot jets is nigh on impossible unless you've actually got them removed. You can probably get a guitar string through the main hole, but you're not going to get those fluted holes cleared up without pulling them out. I think even ultrasonic cleaning would struggle, which they've been ultrasonically cleaned twice, yeah. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's just kind of an update on that particular issue. Thanks again to the folks on the forum that showed me some videos and posted all kinds of pictures on how to do that. So I appreciate the help, I really do. Okay, so my Rick's Motorsport Electrics new regulator rectifier arrived. So now I can get to work back on the CB900 and see if I can solve my charging issues. Okay, so it's been actually a few weeks since my Rick's new voltage regulator rectifier arrived, but as I've said before, summertime I spend most of my time outside on the farm doing farm work and haying and whatnot, and when the weather's good, aside from doing that, I'm actually riding the bikes, so I don't get as much time in the shop. So today and tomorrow we've got rain, so opportunity to give this reg rec a try. So I'm going to get this installed today, and fingers crossed that this solves my my problem with the charging. If it does, that means then I can now take this entire bike to pieces, every last nut and bolt, and then set about the remainder of the restoration. But I really want to get this charging issue sorted out first, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so I got the new reg rec on, and this is what I've got at the battery before I turn the bike on. So I'm going to fire the bike up and see what happens here. Turn on the fuel out of my remote fuel bottle here. Got my choke on, key on. Okay, it helps when the kill switch is not turned off, I guess. I flooded it now. Okay, I took the plugs out, cleaned those, dried them off. They were just fuel soaked, so obviously cranking it over like that, I flooded it, so let's give it another try. Okay, try again. I can give it some choke now, hopefully. Looks like the reg rec is working now. Pipes, I guess. Now the good news is it's charging. If I hadn't flooded it, it wouldn't be banging and popping like that. So. Well, yeah, it was banging and popping because I just completely fuel soaked it trying to get it to fire up. I didn't realize I had the kill switch off, and I was hitting the throttle and squirting the accelerator pump jets through the carbs and choking it, and yeah, there's all kinds of fuel in there. So banging and popping because of that. So I'm not too concerned. But the good news is it is charging again now, so that's good. So it was the voltage regulator which was bad, plus for sure the rotor was bad. So that sorted that out, so I'm very pleased with that. Now I can set about tearing the bike down and move this restoration along. So just a final word on the charging system and what I've learned through folks from the CB900F forum, which those guys were very helpful in helping me diagnose this. Electrical stuff is not my strong suit, but basically what I've learned is when the rotor goes bad, which this one did, because I tested the resistance across the I don't know what you call those things now. But anyway, there's two kind of copper rings. When you test the resistance across those and you check against the specifications in the manual, this one was clearly done. So I got put a new one on and it tested fine. I think it was supposed to be like between 3.6 and 4.4 ohms or something like that. So the new one worked fine, but apparently when a rotor goes bad, it's very common for it to kill the voltage regulator as a result of that. It doesn't usually happen apparently the other way around. If your reg goes bad, it will typically not fry the rotor. But when the rotor goes bad, not uncommon for that reg to be cooked in the process. And when I turned the bike on, even just with the key, I was getting no voltage. I should be getting voltage between the white wire and the black wire here, and I wasn't. So that's kind of what led me to changing that reg, and now the bike is now charging the way that it should. A lot of fuel still pooled up in those carb boots from my messing around trying to get the thing to start because the kill switch was turned off. But anyway, without any further ado, it's now time to disassemble. And so the plan, of course, I think as I've said before, each step of my disassembly will get recorded in my trusty notebook. All the parts that come off, no matter what they are, will go into a baggie. That zippy bag will get labeled with the part and also the corresponding number in the book. It just makes the whole reassembly process way easier. And as you're taking things off, what I do is I just kind of make a note. If anything looks like it's shagged out, broken, needs replacing, needs cleaning, whatever the case is, that gets noted in the book as well. And then I'm prepared for all of that stuff so I can order parts, make a list based on my notes, and that way it helps. Just you're not waiting forever for stuff when you start the reassembly process, because, you know, for me anyway, the reassembly is kind of the most exciting part when the thing starts to go back together, and it's not great when you got to wait for weeks on end for new parts to arrive so you can finish your reassembly. But anyway, let's get this thing torn apart. All right, so just a quick shot of where we're at. So I just decided to start at the rear end. There's no rhyme or reason for that. I just kind of pick a spot and I'll jump around and I'll just do whatever occurs to me to do next. So yeah, I'm just kind of picking away at it. Yeah, just kind of going from back to front at this point. And you can just see how a thunderstorm going out here. If you hear rumbling in the background, it's just, you know, pretty filthy, as a lot of these old bikes are, especially when they've been sitting around in the barn or who knows where for so long. Pretty nasty. And the more I look at these pipes that came with it, the more I think they're homemade. As I said before, they kind of got like an OEM sort of style to them, but looks to me like these were homemade. Could be wrong. If anybody's ever seen anything like these before, let me know in the comments below, but they sure as heck look homemade to me. I mean, just the quality of the welds doesn't speak to me as kind of a factory produced set of pipes or anything like that. So as I've shown you before, this is my notebook. I'm not going to read any of these notes, but this is just kind of every step that I'm taking. Write down what I'm taking off. This is step 43, by example. And then in the box of parts here, every single bag is labeled with the same number as the book, with a description again, so just makes it easy to reassemble. And if for any reason, like I lost a page in my book, you know, let's say I spilt something on it and it wiped it out, which, you know, could happen. At least not just having the number, but the description of what's on and where this part goes helps on the reassembly. So there is method in the madness. It might seem very pedantic, and it is. My experience says that it just makes it so much easier. And as I've said before, I take not just the video of the disassembly, but I take a lot of pictures. And once I've gotten down to a certain level of disassembly, I'll take even more pictures. So now that I've got like the battery box out and the rear fender and the rear wheel and the rear brake assembly, I'll go around again and I'll take some more photographs, because at this point it becomes easier to sort of take photographs of where the wiring harness is and that kind of thing. So you just kind of keep taking pictures. And when you think, as I've said before, when you think you have enough pictures, take more and just take them from different angles and so on, because there has never been a time, and I don't know how many bike restorations I've done now, maybe 15 or more, and there's always a case where I kind of go, oh geez, I wish I had that photo from a slightly different angle. So yeah, just take lots of photographs. You're not gonna, and if you don't need them, great, but when you need them and you've got them in your hand, it just makes it so much easier to, I mean, sure, there's cable routing diagrams and so on and some of that kind of stuff if you've got access to the factory shop manual, which is also important, but I just find it very, very helpful. Easy way to get the grip off, compressed air. Okay, so we're making good progress. So really the main piece of work now is I'm gonna have to put my side extensions on the lift, so then I can put my my other jack on top. And so then the idea would be that that jack will go underneath the engine. I'll block that up, take the weight of the engine on that jack, and then I can start removing the engine mounts. And I'll also take off the rear swing arm and the shocks at that point. So my approach to this will be to basically take the frame off the engine. I'll take that removable frame section off and then basically maneuver the frame off the engine and leave the engine right there on the lift. That's the plan. So I think it's, generally speaking, it's easier and lighter to maneuver a frame off an engine than it is to try to muscle the engine out of the frame. So especially when you're taking it down this far, if you're just taking the engine out by itself and you're not doing anything else to the bike, then yeah, you can probably stick a dolly under there or a rolling jack and move it out this way. Like there's lots of YouTube videos on that. But what I'm doing, since everything's coming apart anyway, it just makes sense to maneuver the frame off the engine. I've done that with quite a number of bikes if they've got a removable frame section, which this one does, and it's usually not too bad. So yeah. Boxes of bits, everything's labeled, wiring harness and whatnot. And I'm also just starting to assemble things that are going to need to get painted. There's a few things in there as well that I need to fish back out. Forks, I have to do a bit of research on the forks. To me, they just look like conventional right side up, right way up forks, which I've done lots and lots of. I've done upside down forks, fork seals and that kind of stuff. Usually not an issue. The climber manual that I have for this bike, which, you know, this is all about DIY, right? You don't have these Haynes manuals or climber manuals for the professional shops. They're the DIY guy. And it says that you cannot disassemble these things, with the exception of taking the bolt out of the bottom, top caps off, and taking the damper rod out. If you want to get the upper chrome tube out of the lower fork leg, there's special Honda dealer equipment needed to press those in and out, or to, you know, extract them and repress them because of interference fits and whatnot. But I don't know, I got to do research on that. To me, they don't look any different than any other fork, where you can just basically slide. Like once you take the circlips out that are in here, you should just be able to like use it like a slide hammer and pull the bushings out along with the seals and everything else. So I can't imagine why a climber manual would say that that's not possible for the home personal without special tooling. So I'll do a bit of research on that, but I don't know, that just seems strange to me. They don't look really any different than any others I've ever seen before. So we'll check into that. The top caps are a little different, but that's no big deal. So yeah, all in all, it's coming along. Nothing really too weird and wonderful at this point. It's just pretty standard fare. All right, so the table extension is on. Gives me another, I don't know, what's that, 12, 16 inches, something like that. And then what I've done is I put the motorcycle jack on the lift table underneath the engine. I've got it blocked up underneath the oil filter housing, and the bottom of it's underneath the oil pan there. And all I've done with the ratchet strap is, I mean, it's not cranked down super hard, but it's just kind of there right now just to stabilize the engine on the jack. I will probably do a couple of things just to reposition that a little bit. Reposition the straps. I'm not sure I like where this one is going. But anyway, the whole point of that is only to make sure that when I start the process of removing the frame, that the engine isn't kind of rocking around on the jack. I want it to be kind of stable there. So as I remove the frame, I'm not having to think about, is that engine going to kind of topple over one way or the other? Is it going to go forwards or backwards or anything like that? So that's the idea. The only other thing I may do is once I get the removable frame section out, I would like to get another ratchet strap around the back of that engine, just so it's a little bit more stable. I don't want it to kind of, because I've got this strap on the front here, I don't want the engine to kind of topple forward. I kind of want it to be strapped at the back and strapped at the front. So that's kind of the, I'm just gonna make sure that, like, this is not like wicked tight here against this, oil line or anything like that. It's just snug enough so things are not gonna fall over. All right, so the left side foot peg mounting plate is off, and the swing arm is off. Strangely, with these bikes, the foot pegs are mounted on the engine mounts. There's a long shaft that goes through here, and the foot peg, the plate that holds like the foot pegs and whatnot, is bolted on here. It's bolted through the swing arm mount, and also with the foot peg through one of the engine mounts. So if you ever want to take that plate off, you've got to pull, all kinds of stuff off here. So anyway, that's all not difficult. It just seems unnecessary. So yeah, the next step, I think, will be I'll take off this cover for the primary drive gear and take the chain off. And then it's the rest of the engine mounts have to come off. I'll actually see if I can completely remove this will have to come right off. I'll unbolt it here just to give more clearance. This will have to come off. These kind of dog bone links here will have to come right off on both sides, and the removable frame section. So getting closer. All right, so the removable frame section has been removed. Very, very simple to do. Dog bone engine mount up here removed. The long shaft engine mount there removed. The two nuts here that hold it at the back removed. And then basically it just kind of slides right off the tube there. Just slide it down. So one of the things I would be taking care of is when I paint the frame, I'm going to make sure I mask that off. Otherwise it's going to end up with too much paint and be too thick to slide the frame section over top of. So I'll watch that. I removed the chain. Simple Simon to do that. I just took the sprocket cover off, and then there's like a guard or retainer in there. Took that off. Fairly straightforward. So next, there are now not too many engine mounts left. I think just the top one here at the front, and the main one at the rear, and then you can try to muscle that frame off there. Okay, so I've got all of the engine mounts out, and now we're going to find out if I can actually maneuver this frame off the engine. I'm going to move that kickstand, or center stand, up and out of the way. I'm going to just move a couple of these wires so they're not in the way. Done. So there's the frame So I still need to remove that front engine mount off there, obviously. Bushings and rubber grommets have to come off here and there. But by and large, and of course the center stand has to come off. Wheels need to be disassembled and cleaned, and tires taken off. I'm going to try my new Nomar tire changer for that for the first time. Chain, well, we'll give it a cleaning, see how it cleans up, otherwise it'll get replaced. Engine will be scrubbed down and repainted. Valve cover and the engine, all the polished, or supposed to be polished engine covers will come off, and they will be polished up, including this one. Swing arm will be cleaned and painted. The removable frame section will be cleaned and painted. All this stuff will be cleaned and painted. So yeah, so now it's really a lot of cleaning and painting, really. Not difficult, just somewhat time consuming. And yeah, that was not too bad at all. It was pretty straightforward. That's got to be one of the easiest disassemblies I think I've ever done on a bike, so not too bad. Okay guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and as you can see behind me, we've got basically the disassemblies completed. There's a few little bits here and there that have to be taken off, but by and large the bulk of it is done. So next video is going to be basically cleaning and preparing everything for getting painted. So that includes the frame, the engine, and a bunch of the other components that need to be painted black. I'll also have to, at some point along the way, rebuild the front forks. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and please click that subscribe button, and it really does help. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.